Back everyone to another edition of Insightful Principles. My name is Kevin Jenkins and I have a very special episode for you all today. What I want to discuss in this episode is blockchain technology. It's essentially the underlying technology behind Bitcoin, Ethereum, most of the well-known cryptocurrencies that you know out there. And blockchain is going to transform the financial services industry. It's really one of the biggest technologies happening now within the Fintech world. And Fintech stands for financial technology. And I actually talked about blockchain technology in episode 12 with a guest I had on, John Riley, and he really gave his viewpoint on how blockchain allows us to be able to take more control of our finances with peer-to-peer lending without needing the intermediary of a third party or a central bank. And it essentially allows us to be able to send money to other people, even people across the country, and we don't need a third party or a bank to finalize the transaction, which is big because essentially it allows us as investors to be our own bank. So that's why I think that blockchain is going to be so innovative of how it really changes people's mindset on how they do business on a day-to-day basis. And John, he also mentioned in that episode how the value of blockchain is within traceable transactions, audit trails, and enhanced security. What he means by that is that a CFO, they have more control of their day-to-day transactions, and they're not vulnerable to another person getting access to their financial information that could jeopardize the company. Now, the transactions are immutable, where they can't be changed, and it can be traced back all the way from beginning to the end of the transaction. Now, before I move forward in today's episode, if you all can continue to like, subscribe, and share this video, it definitely helps. If you can continue to get involved with the giveaway, I am still doing the giveaway where I'm giving away a $70 Amazon gift card. But episode 50 has the details in the show notes. So continue to support the channel, and let's go ahead and get it started. So when it comes to blockchain, think of it as a database or a record-keeping system. A database is simply a collection of information that is stored electronically on a computer system. And information in a database is typically within a table format that makes it easy for searching and filtering information. Now, with a database, a number of users can access, they can filter and manipulate large amounts of information very quickly. Large databases, they accomplish this by storing data on servers that are comprised of powerful computers. In some instances, these servers can have hundreds, even thousands of computers just to have enough space and power necessary for many users to access the data simultaneously. Now, while a database may be available for a number of people, it is often restricted by the ownership of a business, or it could be managed by one particular person that has complete control of how it works and the data that's stored within it. So what makes a database different from the blockchain? I'll explain why. One factor is how the data is structured on the system. A blockchain, it puts information together in blocks that hold a set of information. And blocks, they have storage limits, and once filled, they are chained with the previous filled block, forming a chain of data, which is called the blockchain. Now, once new information is added, a newly formed block is then placed once the previous chain is filled. So as I have discussed earlier, a database structures its data in tables, whereas a blockchain, it structures its data in chunks, also known as blocks, that are chained together. This system creates an immutable timeline of data when implemented in a decentralized nature. This is what makes the transactions traceable. It also allows every piece of data to be verified when the information is placed on a blockchain. It also provides the transparency where everyone can see the timeline of data and can verify if a transaction is accurate or inaccurate. To give you an example of the transaction price process in a blockchain, it begins where a new transaction is entered into the system. Next, the transaction is transferred to a network of computers, peer-to-peer across the world. Third, the network computers are working together to verify the transparency of the transaction. Fourth, the transaction is complete, and these blocks are placed together to create a timeline of data that is perpetual. Lastly, once the transaction is confirmed and correct, they are clustered in blocks. Think of this like solving a Lego puzzle. All of the pieces have to be put together correctly to complete the puzzle. In this case, the network computers are verifying the transactions as the blocks of information are being filtered in. It has to be validated and it has to be correct before it can be clustered together on a timeline with the blockchain. Blockchains are mostly used to store transaction history, but the blockchain can be used for many other instances as well, such as legal contracts, smart contracts, inventory records, deeds of a home. One of the biggest benefits of the blockchain is decentralization. This is why a lot of people are invested in crypto, because the value of Bitcoin is decided upon of the members of the decentralized network instead of a central bank. So the more people that buy Bitcoin, the value of it increases, the demand increases, and therefore the price of it increases, and even the security becomes a lot better the more people that are in the decentralized network. Now, the way blockchain works with Bitcoin is the network of computers have it stored on their database, which stores every Bitcoin transaction that has ever been made. Bitcoin consists of thousands of computers, but each computer of groups of computers that hold this blockchain is in a different geographic location, and they are all operated by separate individuals or groups of people. These computers that make up the Bitcoin network are essentially called nodes. In a blockchain, each node has a full record of the data that has been stored on the blockchain since the beginning. For Bitcoin, everyone can see the entire history of Bitcoin transactions, and if a node has an error with its data, it can use thousands of other nodes as a reference point to correct itself. This is what makes it irreversible, and the information cannot be altered. So that is very unique when you think about it. All of these computers that make up the Bitcoin network, which are called nodes, they're able to cross-reference each other whenever there's incorrect information entered into the blockchain, when there's an error with the data, and everyone collectively is able to look at a transparent piece of data to be able to see what's correct, to be able to filter out the incorrect data. So if one user attempts to tamper with Bitcoin's record of transactions, all the other nodes or the computers will cross-reference each other and clearly point out the incorrect information on the blockchain. The only way the blockchain could be changed is if a majority of the decentralized network would have to agree upon it, essentially. So this ensures whatever changes that are made is in the best interest of the majority of the people. Now, I wanted to go over some examples of how blockchain is being implemented now, and also how it's currently being used among many industries. And Bitcoin simply uses blockchain to record transaction payments. Now, they also show with the blockchain that it can be used for an immutable record of any number of data points. So what I mean by that is the blockchain, for example, can be used within the voting system. And this will prevent fraudulent voting because of the security of the blockchain. So how this will work is each citizen of a country will be issued a cryptocurrency or a token, and then each candidate in the election, whether it's the governor or the president, they will be giving a specific wallet address. And a wallet address could be, their Coinbase or their MetaMask, and the voters would essentially send their crypto or token directly to that candidate's crypto wallet address that they wish to vote for, and this will create a transparent and traceable voting system on the blockchain, and that would eliminate the need of counting votes physically and preventing any changes with the ballots. Now, another example of blockchain is IBM. They have created a food trust blockchain where they're able to trace the time that it takes for its food products to be delivered at their locations. So one reason that this is smart is because the food industry has been known for many outbreaks, from salmonella all the way from E. coli to listeria, and as well as hazardous materials that have been introduced in foods before delivery. As a result, it can take weeks to find out the cause of these outbreaks or the cause of the sickness from what the people are eating. Therefore, the blockchain gives food companies access to track a food's product route from the beginning through each stop it makes, and finally all the way to a delivery. If the food has been found to be contaminated, it can be traced all the way back from each stop to the beginning of the route for the food product. Companies could also do everything else. It can also be able to look at anything else that it may have came into contact with, allowing them to identify the problem and prevent any food outbreaks. Now, a smart contract is one of the most profound aspects of being able to utilize blockchain. Ethereum uses smart contracts with their blockchain, and a smart contract is a computer code that can be built into the blockchain to verify, facilitate, and negotiate a contract agreement. So smart contracts, they operate under terms of conditions that the user agrees to, and when those conditions are met, the contract is automatically carried out. So for example, let's say that a tenant decides to rent out an apartment through a landlord using a smart contract. The way this could work is the landlord can agree to give the tenant the door code on the apartment as soon as the tenant pays the security deposit. So both the landlord and the tenant, they would send the portions of the deal to the smart contract, which would hold on to the releasing of the door code for the security deposit on the leasing date once the lease has begun. Now, if someone such as the landlord doesn't provide the door code in the smart contract by the leasing date, essentially the tenant would be giving back their security deposit. But if both parties were to be able to put their information on a smart contract, then the tenant would essentially get their door code and they will be able to rent out the apartment. This would eliminate any fees or processes associated with the use of a notary or a third-party mediator. Another example of blockchain is also with the healthcare industry, where a lot of medical providers, they can store their patients' medical records on the blockchain, and essentially the patients will put all of their information on the blockchain, and that way it will be more secure, where they will be the only ones that can see their information, and it knocks out the factor of a doctor or an office being able to hold all of that paper or all of those physical medical records, and all of this information will be put on the blockchain digitally, which will save a lot of time and a lot of paperwork. So these are just some of the examples when it comes to how blockchain can be used, and also how it's currently being used now. Now, some of the pros that I did just wanted to recap is, the blockchain, it is a transparent technology that allows transactions to be private and also more efficient. The decentralization also it eliminates the ability for someone to be able to hack into the system or even being able to tamper with a transaction. It also it has a benefit of cost reduction. When you think about the costs that go into being able to file medical records, or all of the paperwork that's necessary to rent out an apartment, or even just the deed of a home, being able to actually get the deed for that property, a lot of these real estate companies can now find strategic ways to put the deed on a smart contract where everyone can upload their information online electronically on the blockchain, and it will have that timeline of data where everything can be verified, all the way from the beginning of the transaction to the end. I also think that the blockchain, it allows for improved accuracy by removing human involvement and verification. So I definitely think that, one of the biggest aspects of the blockchain is really taking away the ability of us not having to go through a central bank or a central authority, and it really provides a banking alternative, especially where a person can be able to secure their personal information for citizens of countries with unstable or undeveloped governments. Now, some of the cons, I know a lot of people have been talking about this lately, is the technology costs. When doing research on the technology costs, it did describe that it can cost anywhere between $5,000 to $7,000 per coin to be able to mine Bitcoin. So the electricity cost is definitely a prevalent conversation, but there are many miners that are creating mining farms that are being set up to use solar power, and also trying to use power from wind farms as well. So I definitely think that it's allowing miners they understand the electricity cost behind being able to mine Bitcoin, but I think that it's allowing people to be more creative of how to use the energy in the best way possible. And of course, a major con is regulation, but I definitely think that as cryptocurrency, as Bitcoin, Ethereum get more attention, it's only going to bring more demand and value for this industry, because I think that people understand that the purchasing power of the dollar is decreasing significantly, and this is one route that can allow you to really have control of your finances and to really be able to hedge yourself against the monetary system. So even with the regulation, of course, taxes is a prevalent conversation with capital gains, but I think as an investor, one way that you can overcome that is just holding your Bitcoin or your Ethereum or your Cardano for the long term, and not trying to be short term thinking, but being more long term thinking. So I hope all of this was very informational for you guys. If you can continue to like, subscribe, and share this video, that would be greatly appreciated. Continue to support the Patreon page, where I'm creating content from along the lines of I have very good resources on there for budgeting, building your net worth, financial planning with my Zoom calls, and also I have my investment chat on my Discord. So definitely, if you're interested in that, you can look at the show notes. I'll have that with my link tree, and you'll be able to get involved. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in into another episode, and you all take care.